Hi there YouTube, this is Daniel back again with another YouTube video. And this time it's another comic book haul videos. My single issues I picked up in the month of April, and things have gotten sort of out of hand. I'm picking up way too many books. A lot of them are miniseries, so they will eventually conclude by themselves, but I do have to make some cuts to my pull list. And come July I will have reduced my pull list in a more manageable size to have more time for collected editions and trade paperbacks and hardcovers and omnibuy and stuff like that. This is the pull list, or the stack of books I have for this month, and let's just dive into it. I might split this into two parts depending on how long this will take, but I will try to keep short on each title, and let's just go through them and see what I picked up this month. So the first book I'm gonna show you, it's Monster Crush issue 5, and this is actually the final issue I'm picking up on the series, at least in single issues. The story was intriguing at first, but it kind of lost its momentum for me, at least. And so far it's been interesting somewhat, but the artwork is great. But I think it's a better read for a trade paperback in the future, so that's how I'm gonna pick it up from now on. But I'm a bit disappointed that they didn't really conclude some of the story elements in this issue for the first trade paperback. So for those who are trade waiting, this might not be a satisfying ending if this is the conclusion of that first volume. But I'm not picking up more of these single issues, at least. Mother Panic issue 6. This is an ongoing series, and it kind of picked up in the first 2 and 3 issues, but it kind of lost it for me, at least, partly because of the artist change, but the story got a bit jumbled for me. It's difficult to follow in a monthly book, so it's probably gonna be a better read for a trade paperback, but it kind of, I lost interest in the character, and I lost interest in the world that they wanted to create. Even though the Gather House idea with this orphanage training people or experimenting on children was interesting, they didn't explore that enough for me, at least. But I might pick it up in a trade in the future. The Few, issue 4 out of 6. This is gonna conclude now in June, I think. And if you can get behind the artwork in this series, you're in for a nice story. It's this apocalyptic or wasteland style setting in what used to be Montana, USA. There's these factions, 3 different factions. The Few, which are supposed to be the protagonists, I guess, and you have this these 2 antagonist groups, or at least that's what I picked from it. You have these raiders, maybe like a Mad Max style raider group, with this leader called King Herod. And then you have the palace, which is basically what is left of civilization, I guess. But yeah, it's a very interesting world that they've created, and I want to know more. Hopefully they will revisit this in another part of this wasteland with another group, or maybe even continue this, depending on how they conclude the series. I like the artwork, the story is good as well. It's a good read. Hopefully people will pick it up in a trade later on, so it's gonna be worthwhile revisiting it. Savage Things, issue 2 out of 8. It's a miniseries at Vertigo by Jordan Mustafa, and they haven't collaborated before, I think, but I like the story, the premise of the story, with this group within sort of CIA, NSA style agency have kidnapped kids when they were young and trained them to be these chaos agents, and they got out of control and the government wanted them eliminated, so they arranged as a drone strike, and now they are back because drone strike didn't take, and they have this other agent that was trained with them but had some differences in his training, I guess, so that they can use him as a failsafe, I guess. And that's where we are now. These chaos agents were meant to go into countries and destabilize them through terror methods, through basically create chaos, terrify the population, and demoralizing the troops for that nation, so they can destabilize that country or the whole region around there. It shows a lot of promise. The artwork is good. It's a very brutal story. Trinity, issue 8. It's written by Colin Bunn, just like the issue before this. Francis Manapul is back in issue 9 with both art and story. I am not really happy with this issue. I didn't like the story, and I know that it says Superman Reborn Aftermath, so if I didn't read those series with Superman, like Superman and Action Comics, I probably won't get what's going on, and that's basically what happened to me. I didn't really get what was going on, so maybe that's why I don't like it, but I'm just happy that Francis Manapul will be back in the next issue, and not really feeling this issue at least. Batman issue 20, really good issue, great conclusion to the arc. Art is awesome, so really good tempo or pacing through the story. Good elements there where we get some character growth for Bruce Wayne, Batman, and you really see how desperate Bane is to get to Psycho Pirate, and he is ready to do anything basically to get him to be cured of his addiction to Venom, basically. It's a really good arc and a good conclusion. You see that Batman has a plan for everything, basically. Mosaic issue 7. I really like the series. It's sad news for me that it's gonna end in July, I think. But hopefully they will wrap it up nicely. In this one, you get the time jump and you get Mosaic getting more acquainted with more of the Inhumans in Attilan, and you get some of his personality gets knocked down a peg or two, and people want him to contribute more, not just coast by, and it's a cool character, his superhero persona, and I like that they are trying to humanize him or make him more likable, his personality, that is. The artwork is good. It's not like the front page or cover here, but I like the artwork so far. Supergirl issue 3, or book 3 I should say. This is a prestige format book, I guess. It's bi-monthly, so it's every other month, and I really liked the artwork by Joelle Jones, and the story by Mariko Tamaki. It's good too. It's a good pacing to the story. You feel for the characters, and this is a bit of a slice of life story with Cara Danvers going to high school and dealing with the loss of a friend. And in this issue we get introduced to what is supposedly to become the villain of the book, I guess, which is a nice intrigue, and I kinda saw this coming, but not all of it, some of it. Hopefully it's gonna be able to wrap up in the last issue here in July. But yeah, it's a nice story for those who like Joel Jones' art. I definitely recommend this to you. 7 to Eternity, issue 5. It's been a while since issue 4, and I'm happy that they are back. In a couple of issues we are gonna have a guest artist, I guess, for this series, and but the story picks up where we left off. They are still traveling to this wizard that might be able to sever the connection that the Mud King, or the God of Whispers, have with so many of this world's inhabitants. And I really like the artwork and the coloring. Artwork by Jerome Pena, story by Rick Remender, and coloring by Matt Hollingsworth. It's just awesome to look at. Yeah, awesome series. Can't wait to get to next issue. And we have Black Monday Murders, issue 5. This has also been on a hiatus since January, I think. And it's been a while since I read it, but didn't really matter. We pick up sort of where we left off in the last issue. And I really like the story. You have to pay attention when you read it, because if you don't, you have to do a read or something like that. But it's a fascinating world that Hickman is building here, and I really like how it's presented, and the artwork is stunning. The coloring is great too. So for those of you who like these conspiracy style books, definitely recommend you picking the trade paperback up that was released in February, I think. Royal City issue 2, and yeah, I kind of like this slice of life story, but there's some sort of occult or supernatural element to this, or they may not be, but there's something going on with the radio, people hearing whispers through the radio from a dead relative, I guess. And this is about the Pike family and how they have dealt with the loss of a younger brother, I guess. And people are in different stages of grief, I guess. They have different ways of dealing with this loss. And they do, Jeff Lemire does a nice little touch in this book. He basically referenced his last Create Your Own book, Trillium at Vertigo. So since I have read that, I got the reference, and I thought it was fun. The Wildstorm issue 3. I like the series, but it's very confusing for me since I haven't read the series until now. Before these 3 issues, and I have to make some cuts to my pull list to make it more manageable, and I decided to not pick this up in the future, so that's why I have dropped this, but I will revisit it in a trade or maybe back issues in the future, but for now I'm done with this series, even though it's very interesting and the story shows a lot of promise, and the artwork is good as well. The next issue is Batman Detective Comics 954. In this one we get basically some back information about League of Shadows. It's basically it's a spoiler here. It's, as I understand it, a offshoot of the League of Assassins that Ra's al Ghul lost control over or influence over, and this woman who is the leader now, she is ruthless and turns out to be the mother of Orphan, or at least introduced as the mother of Orphan. and it's basically all takes place in, if I remember correctly, it takes place inside the Batcave, and Batman basically gets captured. So that's the spoiler. And then we continue with Batman Detective Comics 955, and this is basically focusing on Orphan and giving her some character development. I really like this issue. The artwork is, I like it. It's interesting, and I like how vulnerable Orphan is, since her upbringing was with this warrior in the League of Shadows or Assassins, I can't really remember, but she has trouble expressing herself in words, but she loves dancing, especially ballet, and how she expressed herself through movement and dancing, and her way of fighting is basically almost like dancing, or I imagine it being so. And I like how she struggles to find the right words when she's trying to communicate with people close to her. Almost halfway through, and here we have Hawkeye issue 5. This one we have Jessica Jones visiting, trying to find a woman that doesn't really want to be found, I guess. And there is dragons in this issue, and I'm really interested to know what these dragons may pose as a threat, or what they do, or what is gonna happen here, because dragons is a big leap, I guess. But I like how this series is a very quirky one. The quirky character is fun, good art. I like it. So I think that's halfway through, and if you have any questions about these books, or if you have any suggestions for books to pick up, or any other thing you want to discuss, just leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you either in a video or in the comments. Until next time, happy reading and see ya!